In the winter of 1692, a teenage girl started screaming, not metaphorically. She threw herself on the floor, barked like a dog, and claimed invisible hands were strangling her. Within weeks, an entire Puritan village decided the only explanation was witchcraft. Within months, 19 people had been hanged. One man was pressed to death under heavy stones, and over 150 innocent people sat rotting in jail waiting for their turn. This wasn't the Middle Ages. This wasn't some remote backwater. This was colonial Massachusetts, a literate, God-fearing community, tearing itself apart from the inside. And what makes the Salem Witch Trials truly terrifying isn't the executions. It's how fast an entire town agreed to do it. To understand how Salem collapsed, you need to understand what it already was. Salem Village in 1692 was not peaceful. It was held together by a single suffocating belief. God was watching, and the devil was waiting. Puritan theology didn't just warn about evil, it promised it. Satan walked the earth. He made deals, and his agents looked exactly like your neighbors. On top of that, land disputes between families, a bitter feud over church leadership, a history of brutal Native American raids that had left the entire region traumatized. These people were already living in fear before the screaming started. Then came winter. 9-year-old Betty Paris, daughter of the village's minister, began having episodes, convulsions, visions. Her cousin Abigail joined, then another girl, then another. The local doctor examined them and found no medical explanation. And in a world where no medical explanation meant one thing only, there was just one question left. Who was doing this to them? The first names came quickly. 3 women. Tituba, an enslaved woman from Barbados who worked in the Paris household. Sarah Good, a homeless beggar nobody liked. And Sarah Osborne, an elderly woman who hadn't attended church in over a year. Society's outcasts, the perfect targets. What happened next is where the story gets dark in a way history books tend to soften. Under intense questioning, Tituba didn't stay silent. She confessed. She described the devil in vivid detail. A tall man in black, a book with names in it, a red cat. She said there were other witches in the village. She named names, and in doing so, she accidentally discovered something that would define the entire crisis. Confessing kept you alive. Denying everything got you killed. The logic was grotesque, but airtight. If you confessed to witchcraft and named accomplices, you were a repentant sinner cooperating with the court. You lived. If you maintained your innocence, the court took that as proof you were still in the devil's service. You hanged. So people confessed to things they never did. And with every confession came new names. And with every new name, the circle grew wider, the fear grew louder, and the village grew more convinced that the devil had truly arrived in Salem. By summer, the governor of Massachusetts had set up a special court to handle the flood of cases. And this court had a weapon more terrifying than any accusation: spectral evidence. Gee, this is the part of the story that should keep you up at night. Because this is where the system stopped pretending to follow logic at all. But before we go there, think about this for a second. If you were in that courtroom, facing execution, and the only way to survive was to confess to something you didn't do and name your neighbors as accomplices, would you? Drop your answer in the comments, because the people of Salem answered that question too. And their answer changed everything. Spectral evidence was the court's acceptance of dreams and visions as legal testimony. If an accuser said they had seen the specter, the spiritual form, of a defendant tormenting them in their sleep. That was enough to convict. The accused had no way to disprove a dream. Defense was essentially impossible. The court also allowed touch tests, the belief that a witch's touch would stop the afflicted person's fit. They blindfolded accusers and had defendants touch them. The fits stopped. It proved nothing. The court treated it as confession. What followed was a summer of organized hysteria. The afflicted girls became celebrities. Crowds packed the courtrooms to watch them perform. When an accused person walked in, the girls would convulse on cue, scream that they saw the defendant's specter hovering above them, or collapse, claiming to be bitten by invisible teeth. Judges accepted it all. Respected citizens began to fall. Rebecca Nurse, a 71-year-old grandmother, so well regarded that dozens of neighbors signed a petition defending her, was initially found not guilty. The afflicted girls erupted in fits. The jury reversed its verdict, and she hanged. Giles Corey, an 80-year-old farmer, refused to enter a plea because a plea would have meant his property could be seized after conviction. He knew he was going to die regardless, so he stayed silent. The punishment for refusing to plead was being laid flat and slowly crushed under heavy stones until you either agreed to stand trial or died. Giles Corey chose death. It took 2 days. His last words, according to witnesses, were, "More weight." The machine finally broke when it made a fatal mistake. It reached too high. When the accusers began targeting the wives of prominent Boston merchants and, fatally, the wife of the governor himself, the political calculus shifted overnight. Suddenly, the men with the power to end it had personal reasons to do so. Increase Mather, a president of Harvard and one of the most influential Puritan voices in New England, published a landmark argument. Spectral evidence was unreliable. 10 guilty witches escaping, he wrote, was better than one innocent person condemned. In October 1692, the governor dissolved the special court. Spectral evidence was banned. The remaining accused were released. The killing stopped as suddenly as it had started. In the end, 19 hanged, 1 crushed, at least 5 more dead in jail, and a community left to live with what it had done, in silence for years, with no one ever punished for any of it. The Salem Witch Trials didn't happen because people were uniquely evil. They happened because a community under enough pressure, enough fear, enough uncertainty, enough righteous certainty, found a system that made killing feel like justice. And once that system started moving, almost nobody had the courage to step in front of it. Think about that mid-roll question again. The people of Salem answered it. Most of them chose to survive. And in choosing to survive, they fed the machine that killed their neighbors. The town didn't become a slaughterhouse because of the devil. It became one because of each other. Before you go, 3 things. First, that question from earlier. Would you confess to something you didn't do to save your own life? Drop your answer below. I read every single one, and I already know this comment section is going to be unsettling. Second, if Giles Corey deserved better than what history gave him, hit the like button. It takes 1 second and it makes sure more people hear his story. Third, subscribe, because what's coming next makes Salem look like a warm-up. If that got under your skin, we have one more nightmare waiting for you. In 1348, a disease so brutal it killed 1/3 of Europe turned ordinary people into something unrecognizable. We put you inside that world. First person. No escape. It's already on the channel. Go watch it.